The kitchen door slammed against my counter so hard it rattled my china cabinet. My 6-year-old granddaughter Emma stumbled in, dragging a bright pink suitcase behind her like a broken wing. Tears streaked down her cheeks, mixing with the snot running from her little nose. "Grandma!" she wailed, dropping the suitcase handle. "They don't want me anymore." My hands were still covered in flour from the Sunday bread I'd been kneading. For a moment, I just stood there, frozen, watching this tiny person fall apart in my doorway. Emma's dark hair was messy, her favorite purple jacket wrinkled like she'd been sleeping in it. "What do you mean, sweetheart?" I wiped my hands on my apron, but my voice came out shakier than I wanted. That's when I saw it. A white envelope, safety pinned to her jacket like a name tag at summer camp. My stomach dropped. Emma collapsed against my legs, sobbing into my flour-dusted apron. "Mommy said you'd take care of me." "She said she can't right now." I bent down, my knees creaking, and unpinned the note with trembling fingers. Emma's small hands clutched at the paper, like she was afraid I'd throw it away. The handwriting was definitely Sarah's, my daughter's messy scrawl that I'd been reading since she was in elementary school. "Mom, I know this isn't fair, but I need you to watch Emma for a while. David and I are going through some things, and it's not safe for her to be here right now. I can't explain everything over the phone. Please don't call me, I'll contact you when I can. I'm sorry. Sarah." P.S. There's money for groceries in her suitcase. My hands shook as I read it again. Then again. "Not safe?" I whispered. Emma looked up at me with those big brown eyes, Sarah's eyes. "Grandma, what does the note say?" I folded it quickly and shoved it into my apron pocket. "It says your mommy loves you very much." It wasn't a lie. Not exactly. "Are you mad at me?" Emma's voice was so small I could barely hear it over the hum of my ancient refrigerator. "Oh, baby girl!" I scooped her up, even though my back screamed in protest. She was heavier than I remembered. When did she get so big? I could never be mad at you. Never. She buried her face in my neck, and I felt her tears soaking through my collar. My own anger burned in my chest. Not at Emma, never at Emma, but at Sarah. How dare she dump her daughter on my doorstep like a package? How dare she not even have the courage to face me? But Emma didn't need to see that anger. Not now. "Are you hungry, sweetheart?" She nodded against my shoulder. "Let's get you some hot cocoa. The good kind, with the little marshmallows." I set her down gently and rolled her suitcase into the kitchen. It was one of those hard plastic ones, bright pink with cartoon princesses. The kind Sarah probably bought to make this whole nightmare seem like an adventure. "Can I help make the cocoa?" Emma wiped her nose with her sleeve. "Of course you can." I forced a smile. "You're my official marshmallow counter." While I heated milk on the stove, Emma sat at my kitchen table, swinging her legs. The chair was too big for her. Everything in this house was built for adults. I made a mental note to get a booster seat. A booster seat? Like she was staying long enough to need one. "Grandma?" Emma's voice cut through my thoughts. "Yes, honey? Mommy was crying a lot before she brought me here, and Daddy keeps yelling at the television." My spoon stopped stirring. "What kind of yelling?" Emma shrugged, picking at a loose thread on her jacket. "Bad words. The ones I'm not supposed to say. And he throws things sometimes." The milk started to bubble over. I quickly turned down the heat, my mind racing. David had always been a hothead. But throwing things? In front of Emma? "Were you scared?" I asked carefully. Another shrug. "Sometimes. Mommy would take me to my room and we'd play the quiet game." The quiet game? Jesus Christ. I poured the hot cocoa into Emma's favorite mug, the one with the dancing cats that I'd bought for her last Christmas. She'd only visited twice since then. Twice in 8 months. "Here you go, marshmallow girl." I set the mug down and watched her tiny hands wrap around it. "Grandma?" "Hmm? How long do I get to stay with you?" The question hit me like a punch to the gut. I sat down across from her. my own hands wrapped around a coffee mug I didn't remember pouring. As long as you need to, baby. Emma took a sip of cocoa, leaving a marshmallow mustache on her upper lip. For a moment, she looked like any normal 6-year-old having an afternoon snack with her grandmother. But her suitcase sat in the corner like a reminder that nothing about this was normal. Should we go get your room ready? I asked. Emma's face lit up for the first time since she'd arrived. I get my own room? Of course you do. The blue one, with the window that looks out at the bird feeder. We spent the next hour making the spare bedroom into Emma's space. I found clean sheets in the linen closet, the ones with tiny flowers that Sarah used to love when she was Emma's age. Emma helped me tuck the corners, standing on her tiptoes to reach the bed. She unpacked her suitcase carefully, arranging her stuffed animals on the dresser like they were having a tea party. At the bottom, wrapped in a pillowcase, I found 3 $20 bills and a note that just said, for food. $60 to take care of a 6-year-old indefinitely. That night, after dinner and a bath and 2 bedtime stories, I tucked Emma under the flowered sheets. She looked so small in that big bed, clutching a worn, stuffed rabbit I'd never seen before. Grandma? Yes, sweetheart? Emma's voice dropped to a whisper, like she was telling me a secret. I heard Mommy crying on the phone about money problems and a bad man who keeps calling. My blood went cold. What bad man? But Emma's eyes were already closing, her breathing evening out into the rhythm of sleep. I sat there in the darkness, listening to her breathe, and wondered what the hell my daughter had gotten herself into. The phone rang 4 times before Sarah's voicemail picked up. Hi, you've reached Sarah. Leave a message and I'll get back to you. Beep. Sarah Elizabeth, you call me back right now. My voice cracked. You don't just drop your daughter off and disappear. I need answers. I hung up and immediately dialed again. Straight to voicemail. Again. Voicemail. Damn it. I slammed the phone down harder than I meant to. Emma looked up from her cereal bowl, milk dripping from her spoon. Grandma, you said a bad word. Sometimes grown-ups say bad words when they're worried. I sat down across from her, my coffee already cold. Emma, honey, I need to ask you some questions about home. Is that okay? She nodded, chewing her Lucky Charms. At least I'd managed that right, buying the sugary cereal Sarah never let her have. You mentioned a bad man yesterday. Can you tell me more about him? Emma's spoon stopped halfway to her mouth. You mean Uncle Mike? He's your uncle? No, that's just what Mommy makes me call him. She set her spoon down carefully. He's not really family. He has scary teeth. My stomach tightened. What do you mean? Scary teeth? Gold ones, in the front, and he always smells like cigarettes. Emma wrinkled her nose. Mommy doesn't like him, but Daddy says we have to be nice. I kept my voice steady. When does Uncle Mike come over? At nighttime, mostly, after I'm supposed to be asleep, but I can hear them talking in the kitchen. What do they talk about? Emma picked up a marshmallow from her cereal and studied it like it held all the answers. Money stuff. Uncle Mike gets really loud sometimes. He says Daddy owes him. The coffee in my stomach turned to acid. What else does he say? That Daddy better figure it out fast, or... Emma trailed off, her little forehead wrinkled in concentration. Or what, sweetheart? Or bad things will happen to our family. She said it so matter-of-factly, like she was telling me about the weather. Jesus Christ. What kind of life had my daughter been living? Emma, did Uncle Mike ever talk to you directly? She shook her head quickly. Mommy always sends me to my room when he comes over, but sometimes I sneak to the top of the stairs and listen. Smart girl. Too smart for her own good. After breakfast, I called Sarah 6 more times. Every single one went straight to voicemail. By the 10th call, her mailbox was full. Emma spent the morning coloring at my kitchen table while I pretended to read the newspaper. Really, I was watching her, looking for signs of whatever trauma she'd been living through. She seemed normal enough, hummed while she colored, asked for more orange juice, complained that I didn't have the right cartoons on my old television. But every time a car drove past the house, she'd freeze and listen until it passed. Emma, what are you drawing there? She held up her paper proudly. It was a house, a simple rectangle with a triangle roof, the kind kids always draw. But this one had details that made my blood run cold. A long black car sat in the driveway. The windows were colored solid black with her crayon, pressed so hard she'd torn the paper in spots. That's our house, she explained. And that's the scary car. The scary car? It sits outside sometimes. For hours and hours. Mommy always closes all the curtains when it's there. I studied the drawing more closely. Stick figures stood behind the windows of the house. A man and a woman pressed against the glass, looking out. Are those Mommy and Daddy? Emma nodded. They look scared when the car is there. Daddy gets really quiet, and Mommy bites her fingernails until they bleed. My hands were shaking as I set the drawing down. How often does this car come by? Every couple days, maybe? Sometimes more. Emma started on a new picture. Uncle Mike drives it sometimes, but there's other people too. Other people? Big men in dark clothes. They don't smile. She was coloring a flower now, pressing the pink crayon hard against the paper. One time, Daddy went outside to talk to them and came back with a bloody nose. I had to grip the edge of the table to keep from swearing again. David, my son-in-law who couldn't balance a checkbook to save his life, had gotten himself mixed up with loan sharks. And now Emma had been living in the middle of it. Sweetheart, did anyone ever threaten to hurt you? Emma's crayon stopped moving. She looked up at me with those big brown eyes so much older than they should be at 6 years old. Uncle Mike said that little girls who talk about grown-up business sometimes disappear. The room spun around me. I reached across the table and took her small hand in mine. Emma, listen to me very carefully. You are safe here. No one is going to hurt you or make you disappear. Do you understand? She nodded, but I could see the fear behind her eyes. Fear that no child should ever have to carry. The rest of the day passed in a blur of forced normalcy. We watched cartoons. I made grilled cheese sandwiches, Emma's favorite, according to the mental notes I'd been keeping about my granddaughter's preferences. We played board games on the living room floor. But every time the phone rang, Emma would tense up. Every time a car drove by, she'd peek through the curtains. By evening, I'd called Sarah 23 times. I'd also tried David's cell phone, their house phone, even Sarah's work number. Nothing. It was like they'd vanished into thin air. At bedtime, Emma brushed her teeth with the new toothbrush I'd bought her, purple, with sparkles on the handle. She picked out pajamas from the small pile of clothes we'd unpacked from her suitcase. Everything she owned fit in one bag. That thought kept circling in my mind as I tucked her in. Grandma? Yes, baby? What if the bad men find me here? I smoothed her hair back from her forehead. They won't. This house has the best security system in the world. It's called a grandmother who loves you. She giggled at that. The first real laugh I'd heard from her since she arrived. Besides, I added, I used to be a teacher, remember? I've dealt with much scarier things than some men in a car. It was a lie, but she didn't need to know that. I was in the kitchen washing dishes when the phone rang. 11:17 p.m. Too late for normal calls. My heart hammered as I picked up. Hello? Mom? Sarah's voice was barely a whisper, shaking with terror. Sarah, where the hell are you? Emma's been... Mom, listen to me. Her words came out in a rush. Don't let anyone know Emma's there. Don't tell neighbors, don't post pictures, nothing. What's going on? I can't explain right now. But whatever you do, her voice broke. Whatever you do, don't answer the door for strangers. The line went dead. The knock came at 2 p.m., right when Emma and I were having our afternoon snack. 3 sharp raps that echoed through my quiet house like gunshots. Emma's apple slice stopped halfway to her mouth. "Grandma?" "Stay right here, sweetheart." I wiped my hands on my dish towel, my heart already racing. Normal visitors rang the doorbell. They didn't knock like they were trying to break down the door. Through the peephole, I saw 2 men on my front porch. Expensive dark suits, perfectly pressed. The kind of men who looked like they'd stepped out of a funeral home brochure. Or a crime movie. I cracked the door open, keeping the chain latch engaged. "Can I help you?" The taller one smiled, showing teeth too white to be natural. "Mrs. Patterson, we're looking for your daughter, Sarah, and her family. We understand they might be staying with you." "I'm sorry. Who are you?" "Business associates." The shorter one stepped closer, and I caught a whiff of expensive cologne mixed with something else. Something that made my skin crawl. "We really need to speak with them." My mouth went dry. "Sarah doesn't live here. Haven't seen her in months." The tall one's smile never wavered. "That's funny, because we have it on good authority that little Emma is here right now." Ice water shot through my veins. They knew her name. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Mrs. Patterson." The short one pulled out his phone, scrolled through something, then turned the screen toward me. It was a photo of Emma from yesterday, taken through my kitchen window. She was sitting at my table, coloring. My knees almost buckled. "Now, we're not here to cause trouble," tall one continued, his voice smooth as silk. "We just need to have a conversation with Sarah about a business matter." "What kind of business matter?" "The kind that involves significant debt." Short one tucked his phone away. "Your son-in-law borrowed money from our client, a substantial amount. And when people don't pay back what they owe." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. "I told you, they're not here." But Emma Island tall one reached into his jacket pocket, and I tensed, expecting the worst. Instead, he pulled out a simple white business card. "When Sarah shows up, and she will show up, give her this number." I took the card with shaking fingers, nothing on it but a phone number printed in black ink. "Tell her she has 48 hours to contact our client," short one said. "After that, we'll need to explore other collection methods." "What does that mean?" Tall one's smile finally faded. "Let's just say that little girls make excellent motivation." My vision went red. "Are you threatening my granddaughter?" "We're simply explaining the situation." Short one adjusted his tie. "Emma is what we call collateral, a guarantee that Sarah will do the right thing." I wanted to slam the door in their faces, call the police, scream at them to get off my property. But Emma was 15 feet away, probably listening to every word. "Sarah will get your message," I managed. "Excellent." Tall one's fake smile returned. "We'll be in touch." They turned and walked down my front steps, like they were leaving a church service. Their shadows stretched across my porch, long and dark, even in the afternoon Sunday. I watched them get into a black sedan, the same kind Emma had drawn in her picture. They sat there for a moment, staring at my house, before driving away. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely lock the door. "Grandma?" Emma's voice came from right behind me. I spun around to find her peeking around the corner of the hallway, her eyes wide with fear. "How much did you hear, baby?" "They know I'm here." Her voice was barely a whisper. "They took my picture." I knelt down and pulled her into my arms. She was trembling like a leaf. "Listen to me, Emma. Those men can't hurt you. I won't let them." "But they said—" "I don't care what they said." I held her tighter. "You are safe with me. Do you understand?" She nodded against my shoulder, but I could feel her tears soaking through my shirt. That night was hell. Emma couldn't sleep. Every time she started to drift off, she'd jolt awake, asking if I'd heard something. A car outside, footsteps on the porch, the wind rattling a window. I moved a chair into her room and sat there all night, watching her toss and turn. Around 3 a.m., she finally fell into an exhausted sleep, clutching her stuffed rabbit like it was a lifeline. I must have dozed off in the chair, because the next thing I knew, sunlight was streaming through Emma's bedroom window. The window that was now standing wide open. My blood turned to ice. I'd locked that window myself before bedtime, double-checked it twice. "Emma!" I shook her gently awake. "Emma, honey, did you open this window?" She sat up, rubbing her eyes. "No, Grandma. You told me never to touch the windows." I leaned out and looked down. There, clear as day in my flower bed, were muddy boot prints, size 11 or 12 by the look of them, leading from the window to my back fence. And there, stuck to the glass with a piece of tape, was a folded piece of paper. My hands shook as I peeled it off and opened it. "We know she's here." That was it. 4 words in block letters, written with what looked like a black Sharpie. Emma read it over my shoulder. "Grandma, what does it mean?" I crumpled the paper in my fist. "It means we need to be extra careful." But inside, I was screaming. They'd been in my yard, looking through Emma's window while she slept. They could have taken her if they'd wanted to. The message was clear. We can get to her any time we want. After breakfast, I called Sarah again. Still straight to voicemail. I tried David's phone. Disconnected. Emma spent the morning glued to my side, jumping at every sound. When the mailman knocked, she hid behind the couch. When a dog barked 3 houses down, she grabbed my hand so tight her nails left marks. I'd raised 2 kids of my own and taught elementary school for 30 years. I'd dealt with bullies, helicopter parents, and administrators who couldn't find their way out of a paper bag. But I'd never dealt with criminals who used 6-year-olds as leverage. That afternoon, I sat at my kitchen table staring at the business card they'd left. Just a phone number. No name, no address, nothing to trace. Emma was in the living room, supposedly watching cartoons, but I could see her in my peripheral vision, peeking around the doorway every few minutes to make sure I was still there. The phone rang, and we both jumped. "Hello?" Silence on the other end. Then a voice I didn't recognize gravelly, like the speaker had been smoking for decades. "Mrs. Patterson? Who is this?" "A friend. You got visitors yesterday." My grip tightened on the phone. "Who is this?" "Someone who knows your daughter is in trouble. Big trouble. And that little girl of yours? She's in the crossfire." The line went dead. I set the phone down with shaking hands and looked at Emma, who was now standing in the doorway, her stuffed rabbit dangling from one hand. "Grandma? Was that Mommy?" I forced a smile. "No, sweetheart. Just someone trying to sell me something." But as I looked at my granddaughter, this precious little girl who'd been thrust into the middle of a nightmare she couldn't possibly understand, I realized something. I was in way over my head. I couldn't take it anymore. Emma hadn't slept through the night in 3 days, and I was jumping at every shadow. We needed help. Real help. "Emma, I need to make an important phone call," I said, settling her in front of the television with her coloring books. "Stay right here where I can see you, okay?" She nodded, clutching her stuffed rabbit tighter. Poor thing hadn't let go of it since the men came to our door. I dug through my old address book until I found the number I was looking for. Detective Ray Martinez, my late husband's partner from back when Jim was on the force. Ray had retired 5 years ago, but cops never really stopped being cops. "Martinez. Ray, it's Dorothy Patterson, Jim's widow." "Dorothy, how are you holding up?" His voice warmed immediately. "I was just thinking about you and Jim the other day." "Ray, I need help. I'm in serious trouble." The warmth disappeared. "What kind of trouble?" I told him everything. The men at my door, the photo of Emma, the muddy footprints, the threatening note. By the time I finished, Ray was swearing under his breath in Spanish. "Dorothy, these aren't just any criminals. You're describing the Kozlov organization." "Who?" "Russian loan sharks. Very bad people. They use fear and intimidation to collect debts, and they don't care who gets hurt in the process." My legs went weak. "What do they want with Sarah?" Your son-in-law probably borrowed money he couldn't pay back. These guys don't just break kneecaps anymore, they're smarter than that. They go after family members, especially kids. Emma's leverage. As long as they have a way to threaten her, Sarah and David will do whatever they're told. I sank into my kitchen chair. What do I do? First, you get that little girl somewhere safe. Then we figure out how to get Sarah to cooperate with the police. 20 minutes later, Ray was at my door. He looked older than I remembered, his black hair had gone mostly gray, and lines creased his weathered face, but his eyes were still sharp, still alert. "Detective Martinez," Emma said shyly when I introduced them. She was peeking out from behind my legs. "You can call me Ray, mija." He knelt down to her level. "I was your Grandpa Jim's best friend. We caught bad guys together. Are you going to catch the bad guys who are scaring Grandma?" Ray's jaw tightened. "That's exactly what I'm going to do." He spread surveillance photos across my kitchen table while Emma went back to her cartoons. Black and white shots of men in expensive suits, getting in and out of dark cars. "These two," Ray tapped the photos. "Viktor Petrov and Alexei Kozlov. The same guys who came to your door." I studied their faces, memorizing every detail. "How do you have pictures of them?" "We've been watching the Kozlov operation for 2 years. Never had enough evidence to make anything stick." Ray gathered the photos. "Until now." "What do you mean?" "Threatening a child crosses a federal line. If we can get Sarah to testify about the threats, we can bring down their whole operation. But first, we need to keep Emma safe." Ray nodded grimly. "My sister-in-law Rosa runs a safe house for domestic violence victims. It's off the grid, no public records, no paper trail. Emma can stay there while we work on Sarah." I looked through the doorway at my granddaughter, who was coloring another picture. This one showed a house with bars on the windows and a big fence around it. How do I explain this to her? "You tell her she's going on a little vacation to meet some new friends." Ray's voice was gentle. "Kids are more resilient than we think." An hour later, Emma was packing her small suitcase again. She folded her clothes carefully, the way I'd taught her, and lined up her stuffed animals in a neat row. "Will you come with me, Grandma?" "I can't, sweetheart. I have to stay here and help the police find Mommy." Her bottom lip trembled. "What if the bad men come back?" "Detective Ray is going to make sure they can't hurt anyone ever again." Ray appeared in the doorway, holding a silver key that caught the afternoon sunlight streaming through Emma's window. "This is the key to your safe house, Emma," he said, extending it toward her. "It's like a secret hideout where only good guys know how to find you." Emma took the key with both hands, studying it like it was made of magic. "Can I keep it?" "Absolutely. That key belongs to you until it's safe to come home." We were loading Emma's suitcase into Ray's unmarked car when my phone rang. Sarah's number flashed on the screen. "Sarah? Mom!" My daughter's voice was pure panic, high and breathless. "They found me. They have me." Ray grabbed my arm, mouthing, "Put it on speaker." I fumbled with the phone. "Where are you?" "I don't know. Some warehouse." Sarah was crying now, her words coming out in broken sobs. They say, if you don't bring Emma to them in 1 hour, they're going to—" "Sarah! Sarah!" A different voice came on the line. Deep, accented, Russian. "Mrs. Patterson, you have something we want. Don't hurt her, please. Bring the child to the old paper mill on Industrial Boulevard. 1 hour. Come alone, or your daughter dies." The line went dead. Ray was already on his radio, calling for backup. Emma stood beside his car, holding her stuffed rabbit and looking up at me with those trusting brown eyes. "Grandma, are we still going to the safe house?" I looked at Ray, who was shaking his head violently while barking orders into his radio. "Don't do it, Dorothy. It's a trap." But Sarah's terrified voice echoed in my head. My baby girl, scared and alone in some warehouse with men who wouldn't hesitate to hurt her. Emma, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Change of plans, sweetheart. Dorothy, don't do this. Ray grabbed my arm as I buckled Emma into his back seat. It's suicide. They have my daughter. I slammed the car door and turned to face him. What choice do I have? Let us handle it. We'll get Sarah back without putting Emma in danger. I looked at my granddaughter through the window, her small face pressed against the glass. In how long? Hours? Days? How long before they hurt Sarah? Ray's jaw worked silently. We both knew the answer. At least let me wire you up, he said finally. Give us audio so we know what's happening. I nodded. Anything that might help. 10 minutes later, I had a tiny microphone taped under my shirt and Ray's voice crackling in a nearly invisible earpiece. We'll be watching from a distance, he promised. The second things go sideways, we move in. The paper mill squatted on Industrial Boulevard like a diseased giant. Broken windows stared down at us like dead eyes, and graffiti covered every surface that wasn't rusted metal or rotting wood. Emma's hand found mine as we walked toward the main entrance. Grandma, I'm scared. Me too, baby. I squeezed her fingers. But sometimes we have to be brave for the people we love. The inside of the warehouse was worse than the outside. Pools of stagnant water reflected the broken ceiling, and the air smelled like decay and motor oil. Our footsteps echoed in the cavernous space. Mrs. Patterson. Victor Petrov stepped out from behind a concrete pillar. So good of you to join us. Emma pressed herself against my leg. I could feel her trembling through her jacket. Where's my daughter? Safe. For now. He gestured toward the back of the warehouse. Walk. We moved deeper into the building, passing rusted machinery and piles of moldering paper. In a cleared area near the loading dock, Sarah sat tied to a metal chair. Her lip was split, and her right eye was swollen shut. Mommy! Emma started to run toward her, but Victor caught her arm. Not so fast, little one. Let go of her. The words came out as a growl. All in due time. Alexei Kozlov emerged from the shadows, his white teeth gleaming in the dim light. First, we need to discuss your son-in-law's debt. What debt? How much? $200,000, Victor said casually, like he was discussing the weather. Plus interest. Plus penalties for non-payment. My knees nearly buckled. 200,000? Your son-in-law has expensive tastes, Alexei explained. Poker games, sports betting, casino trips to Atlantic City. When his credit ran out, he got creative. Sarah lifted her head, her good eye focusing on me with difficulty. Mom, he was stealing from his company. When they started to notice, he came to these people. And when he couldn't pay us back, Victor continued, he offered collateral. Emma, I whispered, a man's family is his most valuable possession. Wouldn't you agree? Ray's voice crackled in my earpiece. Keep them talking. We're moving into position. You can't just take a child. We're not taking her, Alexei smiled. We're simply ensuring cooperation. As long as David works for us running errands, moving packages, his debt gets smaller and his family stays safe. What kind of errands? The kind that could put him in prison for 20 years, Sarah said through split lips. Money laundering, drug distribution. They wanted to turn him into a criminal. And he refused? I asked. Victor's smile faded. He developed a conscience. Most inconvenient. Emma tugged on my shirt. Grandma, I want to go home. Soon, sweetheart. Actually, no. Alexei pulled out a gun, keeping it low, and pointed at the ground. Here's how this works. Emma comes with us as insurance. You and Sarah go home and convince David to reconsider our generous offer. Over my dead body. That can be arranged. Ray's voice in my ear. Now, Dorothy. Get down. Now. I grabbed Emma, and dove behind a concrete barrier just as the warehouse exploded with light and sound. "Police! Everybody down!" Red and blue flashes strobed through the broken windows. Tactical officers poured through every entrance. Automatic weapons trained on Victor and Alexei. "Drop the weapon! Drop it now!" Alexei's gun clattered across the concrete floor. Victor raised his hands slowly, his face twisted with rage. Emma was crying, her small body shaking against mine. But through her sobs, I heard the most beautiful sound in the world, the metallic click of handcuffs snapping shut. "You have the right to remain silent," an officer was saying. "Anything you say can and will be used against you." Ray appeared beside us, helping me and Emma to our feet. "You okay?" I nodded, though my legs felt like jelly. Across the warehouse, paramedics were cutting Sarah free from the chair. She stumbled toward us, tears streaming down her bruised face. "Emma! Oh, baby!" Emma broke away from me and ran into her mother's arms. They collapsed together on the concrete floor, holding each other like they'd never let go. "I'm so sorry," Sarah sobbed into Emma's hair. "I'm so sorry." I knelt beside them, wrapping both my girls in my arms. "Mom, I was too ashamed to ask for help," Sarah whispered. "David's gambling, the debt, the threats. I thought I could handle it myself." "You never have to handle anything alone," I told her. "That's what family is for." Outside, the sirens were fading. Victor and Alexei were loaded into separate police cars, their expensive suits rumpled and their arrogant smiles finally gone. Ray found us sitting on the warehouse steps, Emma asleep in my lap. "David's in protective custody," he reported. "He's agreed to testify against the Kozlov organization. This should put them away for a very long time." Sarah looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes. "Mom, I need help. Real help. David and I both do." "There's a program," Ray said gently, "for families dealing with gambling addiction. Counseling, financial planning, legal assistance. It takes time, but it works." I smoothed Emma's hair back from her sleeping face. "How long?" 6 months, maybe a year," Sarah said. "I can't ask you to." "You're not asking. I'm offering." I looked at my daughter, really looked at her for the first time in years. "Emma can stay with me as long as she needs to, as long as you both need." 3 months later, Emma and I had settled into a routine. School in the mornings, snacks and homework in the afternoons. Sarah called every evening from her residential program, and Emma would chatter about her day, new friends, favorite teachers, the birds at our feeder. Some nights, Emma still had bad dreams, but they were getting fewer and farther between. "Grandma?" she said one evening as I tucked her into bed. "Yes, sweetheart?" "I'm glad the bad men came to our door." I blinked in surprise. "Why?" "Because now I get to live with you, and Mommy's getting better, and Daddy's learning how to stop gambling." She yawned, already half asleep. "Sometimes scary things lead to good things, don't they?" I kissed her forehead, my heart full to bursting. "Yes, baby girl. Sometimes they do."